and then I'll wrap up. With this one-slide presentation and a few questions to ask. But yeah, let's hand over to the program director.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Director NG. As you have all been welcomed to our second webinar of emerging technologies and how they affect future of business and jobs. This is presented to you, the interns of the Drone Council. I have a bit of a problem with network on my side. Just to check, am I audible?
Very much.
Thank you, Chair. So to continue, as the world is shifting more towards being a digital economy, where we can access everything on our internet connected devices, being our computers and cell phones, via digital platforms, which is your Uber, your Checker 6060. The technology is now changing the way we work, play, interact with each other and businesses on a daily basis. From physically visiting each other to frequent checkups on WhatsApp or social media platforms, from the brick and mortar retail shops or to online shopping. Indeed, the customer service we desire has also changed. So today we'll be continuing from our webinar from last week, where we'll do a recap on what we've touched on last week on the following items, being the first item to go over is we'll do a recap on digital transformation, a recap on the 15 emerging technologies of the past, a recap on global technologies of the future, which is we're looking at 2025, and how they affect jobs. Then we'll also have a speaker by the name of Ms. Tenjiwe Kupega on autonomous drones. Then we will have an open discussion on the impact of technologies and jobs of the future, which will be started by the chair. And handing over to my colleagues, we will have Tando Sitole and Tamsanga Makasela doing the presentation for us. And Tando, you may take the podium, please.
Thank you so much, Samgelo. I would like to welcome everyone to our second session of our Drone Wednesday webinar. Afternoon, Chair and all directors that are present, afternoon, members of the public. My name is Tandos Tole, and I am an intern with the Drone Council of South Africa. And I'll be taking us through the recap of what was covered in our previous webinar. For anyone who would like to have a more detailed review of our previous discussions, we have a recording of the session available on our YouTube channel. So please do rewatch it, engage with us on our social media platforms. And again, please do attend our upcoming webinars that will be running until the middle of December. So let's get into the recap. First, we looked at what emerging technologies are. These are technologies that disrupt and transform the way that we live, the way that we work, and the way that we play. These technologies have played a vital role in the modernization of most industries, not only local, but global. As we go on to the next slide, we will look at some of the industries that have been transformed by emerging technologies. So when it comes to emerging technologies and modernization, we looked at the following industries. We have manufacturing, mobility markets, energy sector, and customer service. So when looking at manufacturing, we see the increase of the automation of production lines, the increased use of robotics, AI systems, all in attempts to increase productivity, to increase revenue, and again, to push the manufacturing and company standards into new heights. We also looked at the customer service industry, and Samgelo touched on this a little bit, but we see through digitalization, beg your pardon, that online shopping has become a part of our everyday lives. So applications such as Uber Eats, Takealot, Checker 6060 have completely changed the way that we do things. At the height of the pandemic, we saw how vital such technologies were because they allowed us to do our shopping safely. They allowed us to deliver goods to family and friends that were out of reach. And again, this wasn't limited to the food industry or the clothing industry, but we had big pharmaceutical companies also tapping into a form of digitalization, where we had pharmacies such as DSCA offering the delivery of medications, any kind of medical supply that anyone might have needed at that time. Other sectors, as mentioned before, that we looked at include the energy sector and mobility markets. Just to touch on the energy sector a little bit, I think it's something that we can delve into later in our discussion. This is a sector that's rapidly changing, especially in our country. We are currently going through an energy crisis, and it's very interesting, the discussions that we can have to see how the evolving of the energy sector and how jobs will change in that sector. Okay, moving on, we are looking at the digital transformation part of our presentation. So again, just to redefine what digital transformation is, digital transformation is the process of using digital technologies to create and improve business processes, to improve products and services. And within the digital transformation, we covered the difference between digitization and digitalization. So digitization can be defined as the process of converting information into a digital format. So examples of this would be the scanning of a document from a physical paper into a PDF format. This Zoom meeting or this conference is an example of digitization, where the recording can then be shared onto our YouTube pages. The recording can be shared with each and every one of you in the meeting room. And again, the audio for this recording can be transcribed and turned into a physical document. So those are some examples of digitization. On the other hand, we have digitalization, which can be defined as the use of digital technologies to change a business model and provide new revenue and value producing opportunities. Again, such applications like Takealot, Uber, these are companies that have adopted digital tech to improve their business model and again, reach larger audiences. With digital transformation comes the rise of digital entrepreneurs. In this day and age, most of us either are digital entrepreneurs or we know of someone who is a digital entrepreneur. And this introduces a new way in which we look at jobs, how we define work. And this can be something that we, again, discuss later on after our speaker has been introduced. Next, we covered the 15 emerging technologies of the past that reached 50 million users. I will ask us to move on to that page so we can have a look at the graph. Samgelo, may we move to the next page, please? Okay, so looking at the 15 emerging technologies of the past, these included television, radio, airlines, credit cards, ATMs. These are all technologies that reached 50 million users over varying different time frames. I wish the graph was we would be able to see the graph. I'm wondering if one of my colleagues can possibly project for us. Because again, I think it's vital to just look at the numbers and do a comparison as to how quickly these emerging technologies can come about. Okay. Okay, either way. One thing that's worth noting with the 15 technologies, the 15 emerging technologies, and I hope one of my colleagues will be able to project that figure on for us, is that earlier technologies took longer to reach 50 million users. Some of the technologies that have come post introduction of the internet reached 50 million users quicker. So Instagram, for instance, took 17 months to reach 50 million users in comparison to the telephone that took 75 years. So this speaks to how quickly technology can evolve, and this is something worth noting when we consider jobs and the work of the future. So I will hand over to my colleague Uthamsanqa Makasela, who will take us through the recap of the global emerging technologies of 2025.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for that, Tando. Yes, I'm hoping you can see the screen that I just shared. Yes. Okay. My name is Thamsanqa Wiseman Makasela, and I will be focusing on the global emerging technologies of the year 2025. As you can see on the screen, there are 15 of these, one of them having been drones, big data, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, mixed realities, computer vision, and so on until number 15 having been cloud computing. Now, I want to give an overview of the emerging technologies of the drone industry in particular. An example that I came up with, or something that I thought of, was how the military used to operate as to compare to how they operate in the current date and time. In the 1800s, the military used to operate, let's say maybe the combat piloting. Combat piloting was a risky job at that time because a combat pilot would be tasked to fly a drone with the intentions of dropping off a nuclear bomb on their opponent's site without getting caught at a very high speed. But now how things are done, this is all done with the use and utilization of drones, which is less riskier and very little human involvement is required. And you still get the same results that you would have gotten if you had a pilot. But however, in this case, the pilot would be on the ground and they are much safer. This is how aviation industry has emerged. Yet another example that I will give would be with cybersecurity. Now, I would like to create a scenario for us to understand what exactly cybersecurity is. Now, imagine yourself that you would like to buy a pair of jeans or a t-shirt that you might have seen on a digital platform or online on an online store. Back in the 1800s, you'd probably go there directly to the shop and make this purchase of your choice. But in this day and time, this is done easier through online. You can do it quicker and there is no traveling that is required. But in this whole process of buying or purchasing this online desire of your clothing, personal questions are asked in between. Questions such as your banking details or where exactly do you reside? Then all of a sudden you get an SMS stating that you qualify for a voucher or a coupon. Now with us liking now with us liking money, sorry. Now with us liking money, you click on this coupon, and it promises you that you'll probably get a 5,000 Rand voucher. You click on this coupon, and then this coupon, it leads you to having a deduction of 5,000 Rands instead of you receiving the 5,000 Rand. Now, this, ladies and gentlemen, is known as cyber attack, meaning that a hacker probably got access to your system and they accessed your money without your permission. Therefore, cybersecurity is a necessity here, and it protects your information from the hackers. An example of this would be a banking online application that you would have on your phone, such as the Capitec or the Absa Banking, which notifies you of any transactions that you are about to make or any transactions that you will make. That way you are giving that site permission over this transaction. Yes. Samgelo is not here, but he's supposed to take the next one.
So our facilitator is just having trouble with network due to load shedding. So I'm going to ask our standby, which is Donald Tobejane, to just stand in for him and continue the discussion around global emerging technologies and the work of the future.
Good day, everyone. Hope I'm clear and audible enough. Where am I currently? They are busy fixing some ceilings and there's a lot of drillings and stuff like that. I hope I'm loud and clear from your side. However, thanks for our previous presenter. We're gonna now move to the next presenter, which is Mr. Let me just verify because my network this side as well is giving me problems. These guys are changing everything this side of mine, so I'll need to double check. Yes, from now we're going to introduce our next guest speaker, which is Mtenjiwe Kubega. She's a senior software engineer, then a data scientist. Over to you on your side. Hope I'm clear, guys. My network is so bad as well on my side. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. How are you? And thanks for having me. Okay, just a little bit about myself. I'm a software engineer working on the research department of Google and previously from Amazon. So I'll be talking about drone programming and autonomous drones, basically. But before I go into that, I'd like to have a little discussion about what we do at Google Africa, right? So this is already Google standard that we be in terms of translating language and the whole NLP, and it's translating from one language to another, especially in terms of African languages, in terms of dialects, and in terms of unregistered languages and unregistered dialects. So now the big problem we are solving is that we need to get those languages onto the Google Translate. We need to teach our models that, right? So that is what we're doing basically at Google Africa. So we're trying to solve the language problem internationally. Okay, and now down to drones. Okay, so I heard the previous speaker talk about drones and autonomy and how they will go into being weaponized and how they are weaponized, right? So I want to come into the weaponization of drones, basically, because it is one area of focus that is very debated upon and one that is much talked about. Let's say you're a soldier, right? Let's say there's a kid who was sent down to spy, okay? And then you see the kids, you run after the kid, but you decide you're not going to shoot the kid because that's a kid. This is different for a machine, right? Because that's an enemy. The enemy is a spy. Okay. So now, in terms of automating machines and thinking that automation of machines and weaponizing of machines is going to solve our problems or is going to be effective is very wrong, and is something that big tech is looking down upon, right? Because when I was at Amazon recognized was in hot water for selling facial recognition to the US defense. And Google now is also in hot water for now developing some technology for the US defense, right? So now, in terms of automating drones, they should never be used for weaponization at all, or any machine whatsoever. Because to a machine, it will learn, right, in terms of machine learning, it will learn who is the enemy and who's not, and it doesn't have fine lines between that, right? So any other lessons from pilots? Oh, okay, yes, it doesn't have a fine line between that. Okay, so now today, as I said, I'm going to be talking about autonomous drones, right? So I didn't bring a drone up here. What I wanted to do is code it basically in Python and make it do some few tricks, right? Like we did for the Viz master class. So using computer vision and machine learning, we teach the drone basically to, it's not that advanced. I don't think autonomous drones is very advanced. It's still very basic and still very research. And there's still a lot of challenges that are within robotics. And this is at the lower level where we're talking about the 3 core problems of robotics, which is localization, planning, and manipulation. We still have huge problems there. And mathematics basically is not at the point of solving those problems. It's still very immature. As mathematicians, we like to joke that we cannot solve the 4-3-5 loop problem, and it hasn't been solved because mathematics is still too immature, and hence still autonomous drones, as much as it's marketed within the public, it's not the reality. It's not at the stage that we would like it to be, or the stage that anyone is expecting it to be. It's still very immature. We still even have the SLAM problem. What is SLAM? Simultaneous localization and mapping. So we still have those. So next week, what I will do is that I will come with a DJI drone, one of the Telo drones, a small one. I won't come with the big Maverick one. I'll come with the DJI one, and then we'll do some Python programming, and then we will make it do quite a few tricks. Not very complex stuff like it must go and fetch groceries or deliver water or anything. No. That is still at research phase, as I said. Well, marketing teams would like you to believe that, no, it's already commercial and everything. It's not, all in research phase. So yeah, that's basically what I have to say in terms of drone programming and automating. Any questions for me? Anyone? Could they hear you? They never heard me. There's a hand. Yeah. Yes. You can ask.
Hello, Mom Kenji, are you still there?
I'm still here.
Okay, cool. I'm not sure if you've wrapped up your presentation from your side. I don't know. My network is kind of bad on my side.
Yes, we did have a hand from a Huawei, if I'm not mistaken.
Hello.
Yes.
I'm sorry. My name is Kaya Lisha. I am not Huawei. I've just failed to change the setting here. Just a quick one on TenjiWes, and I come from Ladysmith, KZN. Just a quick one. So basically, per Sister Njiwe's presentation, the drone that has been loaded throughout Africa and the world that can transport medication and stuff. We are not there yet. Is that what I'm getting? Or in South Africa? Because I feel like if Rwanda, for example, can transport these things, you know, and the investment is there, and you know, where are we as South Africa? That's what I'm trying to get. Are we not there yet? Thank you.
Okay, let me get in terms of the drones in Rwanda, right? So it's transporting medication how many kilometers? Let's start there in terms of the kilometers. And what's the accuracy and what's the challenges? These are the things that the marketing teams never tell you, right? As I said, the last time I was a software engineer in a South African company was back in 2016. Since then, I've been with American company. Now, when I'm saying that you're not there yet, I'm meaning at an international level, right? So they're saying it's transporting medicine, but you're not asking the critical technical questions like, what is the accuracy? What is the resistance? How many kilometers is this, right? Saying marketing tells one thing, but in research, there's a whole new different reality. So it's not in terms of South Africa. I'm talking about in terms of the world. Okay, that's yeah. Have I answered you, sir?
Oh yes, thank you very much. I think you've given me a bit of a context so that I do not feel like South Africa we are too far behind, or you know. If I may throw you, Chair, am I still audible?
Yes, you are audible. You can continue with the question.
Hello?
Hello, yes. Is the investment into the drone business technology or drone industry, according to, well, anyway, is it worth it in South Africa, or is that one of those technologies that, you know, because I'm trying to think, except for this council, there are many other platforms where there is a negative conversation about it. So I'm glad that there is this platform, for example. So is this worth it? Is there a way forward, or this is a dying at stillborn industry? Thank you.
No, not at all. It's not a dying industry.
Oh, thank you.
Drones 5 years from now, problems that need sorted out, and this is at research level, right? Drones fall under robotics, and hence the problems that the drones have are the same ones that other robots will have, be it an autonomous car, be it a humanoid robot, be it one of those dogs that are running around. So no, it's not a dying industry at all, not at all. It's going to be booming within the next 5 years, definitely. Okay, so I see hands from Evan and Sean. Who went first? Evan.
Yeah, I wanted to call for order a bit.
What's first? Okay, let's take Evan first. Yeah, Evan.
Yes, my name is Evan Banyani. I'm the chairperson of the Drone Council. I will be speaking shortly, but I just wanted to help to assist you. But your presentation was on the back room of the drones. And the questions that now are asking you on questions that you didn't necessarily present. I see Mr. Sean Lately's hand is up. I'll request him that he puts his hand down as well, that we allow that you finish on what you have. Then we take the next presentation, then we take discussions after that, because this is a continuous presentation. The issues that are being asked today were addressed last week, and every Wednesday at 2 p.m. we're having these continuous presentations. So we take only 1.5 hours, we take bits of it. The issues raised by the gentleman that spoke now will be clarified. Let's stop there and say, let's allow you to finish. We'll have the next presentation and then we will have a good discussion. He's not out of order. It's a conversation that's good and we will explain it. Please join us every Wednesday at 2 p.m. and let's deal with it. Let me hand over to the facilitators. We will answer you, not long.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
So if I may, Ms. Tenjure, can I ask a few questions on my side as an intern with the Drone Council? How did you come about in this line of work? I hear that you say that the last time you worked for a local company was 2016. So how did you come into becoming a software engineer, and how did you get into this industry?
Okay, I studied basically bachelor's in applied mathematics and computer science from Witwatersrand. And then after that, I went on to go work for Capitec Bank. Then after Capitec, I went to the ShopRite group of companies. And then after working for the ShopRite group of companies, I went on to Amazon because AWS is opening a whole new office in Cape Town, in the Cape Town offices. So it's also big, by the way, AWS in South Africa. And now Amazon is coming within its personal capacity. And then after AWS, Google snatched me up. And this is how I went into autonomous drones and machine learning, because as much as I'm within the Google Translate department, I also go within the Google Cloud GCP department platform. This is where we are doing research in terms of computer vision, drone programming, and using computer vision for whether using drones, autonomous drones, and so on for different functions and so on. That's how I got into the field.
Thank you. That's very interesting. And in terms of looking at work in the future, so jobs of the future, do you think jobs such as software engineering, automation will be relevant in the next, we know it will be relevant in the next 5 years or so, but the trajectory of which all of this is happening, how far or how quickly do you see this developing or evolving?
In terms of automation of drones or software engineering?
Yeah, both. I think both. These are both emerging technologies or emerging industries. So how about we talk about both?
Okay, software engineering still has a long way to go in terms of when people say that software engineering won't be here in the next 15 years, it's people that haven't dealt with backend basically and infrastructure development and coding as a whole, mostly front end. Yes, front end probably won't be here, but the back end, it's way too complicated to be automated. It's very, very complicated. So it will be, it probably will be the last field to die. And then in terms of drone programming, right? It's definitely going to boom. When is it going to die? I don't think anytime soon, because we are heading to where UAVs are going to be used as transports now, right? Autonomous cars are going to be used as carpooling, right? Let's say, rather, there'll be a car that comes and fetches us at pooling points. And this will be the same with UAVs. So UAVs are going really big. So this is something I'm telling you that's happening within your big companies, such as Uber, Google too. The Waymo department is working on it in terms of UAVs and both autonomous cars, BMW. So the sector is still going to boom out of control. People don't know this. As I'm saying, it's still highly in research. And no, for the next 20, 30 years, both sectors will be booming.
Yes, and thank you for that, because I think we can already see that there's a movement towards such industries. Like you're saying, automation has been a very big buzzword for the past couple of years, where we have the existence of such companies such as Tesla. I mean, self-driving cars were a myth 20 years ago. We didn't think that this would be such a thing. So even the possibility of having self-flying drones that are actually picking people up, like an Uber, is something that we can look forward to, and I think something that we might see in the coming years. So thank you for that. I would like to ask if anyone has any further questions for Ms. Tenjiwe Kubega, so that we can again move on into having a more open discussion about these industries and work. Are there any questions? Anything in the comment section that anyone would like to bring to the floor?
I see the head from Mr. Penyani. I'm not sure if you've got a question.
Yes, Mr. Penyani, do you have comments or questions around Ms. Kubega's presentation?
Sorry, it's an old hand.
Okay, so we may continue.
Yes, we continue.
Okay, so I see in the comment section, there is a person who asked about border control with drones. There's a company that's currently going to approve process for the exact same thing you asked. So I'm just going to scroll through some of the questions that we had in our comment section. I think the question came from Tony Masinge, if I'm correct. And it says, can we use drones to help guard our porous borders 24/7? And can we see them deployed on a large scale in wars? So, Ms. Tinju, do you have any thoughts about drones in terms of security, in terms of border control? Do we see that as an industry that's coming up, looking at drones introduction into security sector, or is that something that's still coming about?
Security, not militarization. As I said, into militarization, there is a big campaign to ban robots. One of them is the campaign to stop killer robots. That is in the United Nations. So now every country must vote for the banning of autonomous weapons. So I do not see drones ever being weaponized, because there is already a movement to stop weaponization of any machine whatsoever. But in terms of security, yes, there's a big market. Military, I don't see it happening, as there is a lot of backlash against it. So yeah, you can check campaign to stop killer robots. It was run by Mary Wayham, who is a Nobel Prize laureate. And I'm not sure now who's the chair, because she resigned. I'm not sure who's the chair now, but no, in terms of military, there is no future in terms of machines being weaponized. Even big tech, it's being stopped. You hear of software engineers boycotting. Personally, in my department, there hasn't been any boycott, because in our department, as much as we are using computer vision, there hasn't been any militarization in terms of that computer vision or the machine learning part of it. But in the other departments, there has been
Okay, I think we've lost Ms. Tinjiwe there for a second. But onto her point about maybe the move from militarization, but rather we focus on security. Something that someone has made a comment here in our chat, that they were previously employed flying drones, protecting mines and railway lines. So this is in the security sector. And again, we know that SAPS is now employing the use of drones in terms of surveillance. So maybe there's a shift in the ways in which drones are being used, so moving from a militarized perspective, coming into more of the security sector. I would like to thank Ms. Tendria for giving us her time and for being really insightful in terms of her career, the opportunities that may come about in the industry and other industries. And I hope we can continue this conversation again over the next coming weeks. So to move on to our next part of the webinar, we're just going to have an open discussion about work of the future. I want to refer us back to our, beg your pardon, I want to refer us back to the slide where we are looking at the global emerging technologies of 2025. So these are emerging technologies of the future. I would like us to choose about 5, or let's look at 5 of these industries and say which of these technologies are most likely to have early adoption, and we see an increase in their distribution throughout many different industries. So if we can all just take a look at this list, we have drones, big data, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, mixed realities, computer vision, wearable technology, new energy solutions, the Internet of Things, facial recognition, 5G, digital platforms, cybersecurity, financial technology, and cloud computing. So I want us to just have an open discussion about how do we see these 5 of these technologies, which do we think are most likely to reach early adoption in South Africa. To open the discussion, the discussion, I will personally pick new energy solutions. As I mentioned earlier, we are currently going through an energy crisis where ESCOM has not been able to provide the country with the needed energy to sustain our lives. And now we see the rise of technologies such as solar power, any kind of alternative form of power being used on a more regular basis. And as much as solar power isn't a new technology, but the way in which it's now, the increased use of it is something worth taking note. This then begs the question, what will our energy resources look like in the next 5 years if load shedding does continue? What is an alternative to coal, to the burning and the use of coal in providing energy for us? So I'd like to open the discussion and just look at some of these technologies on the list and see if we can see which of these technologies would come into early adoption.
Chair?
Yes.
Of the session?
Yes.
Yes, when you said I must speak, I did remind you that I was requested to just present one slide between Ms. Tenjiwe and this slide.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, yes, so that the discussion flows. And remember, we had a hand from Mr. Ledley. We could also interchangeably be responding to people's questions. I see there's a lot of interesting responses. People are having conversations on other issues. So we do not have enough time, but we'll try and do that. I'll talk to one slide only that is a preamble to your question. It will help the discussion. So I will get you off. Right. Ooh. Are you able to see my slide? Can you see my slide?
Yes, we can, Chair.
Yes, Chair.
Oh, okay, sure. Thank you. Let's see. Let's go here. Let me go to this. What is at the bottom disturbs me. How do I remove this now? Okay, sure. Thank you. The discussion we have within the Drone Council is, and people are asking, you guys are the Drone Council, but why are you discussing all these many technologies? And the view we're taking is that you cannot discuss one emerging technology out of context. Context matters. Drones fall under robotics, yes. If you go to some of the universities, you will find that drones are put in that space. But drones are many things. Drones are toys, drones are tools, drones are aircrafts. So we then say, let's ground this thing and say, what are emerging technologies? Yes, they were defined somehow last week, but historically, they've always been emerging technologies. Those that were here last week, we did speak about how technology evolved from the horses to the cars, from the cars to the trains, to the aircraft, and so on. We'll come back to that. But this is a model from what is called the diffusion of innovation theory that says in any sector, this is how technologies behave. You start with new technology. You are the innovators, very excited. You spend a lot of time developing it, and until you crack it after 7, 8 years or so. I saw one of the comments here saying, two people saying, I attended AAD, I saw a lot of big drones. Yes, it's true. The team that is chairing today were actually working at AAD. And most of the colleagues attended. So so the debate is whether the drone industry is at the innovator side or is on the early adopter side. And we are saying yes. A lot of innovation has been put in place at AAD. You had the CSIR also that displayed its big drones that have developed. But interesting, just yesterday I was telling some people in India, I was saying, when will South Africa start making drones? And I said, but South Africa has been making drones for more than 50 years. The Denel used to have drones, to make drones for the military as far back as the early 80s or the 70s. And drones are more than 115 years old, but they are still called emerging technologies because they were commercialized recently. So the question that was being posed to Ms. Tenjiwe is, is this a dying industry? No. I understand it within this, that when technology is still starting in the beginning, and when we are in this early market, it looks like it is not going to happen. If we did not have load shedding in South Africa since 1998, the solar technology would have died. We have just been standing here at this level because we had stability of ESCOM, we had the early adopters, and etc. But it was not crossing the chasm because it was not massified because there were many factors. The legislation was not allowing the environment, the market was not accepting it. Therefore, technology adoption was at a lower level. Cell phones, when they were started, they were only meant for 300,000 people. But because Telkom did such a bad job on house phones, the market just demanded cell phones. And instead of having 300,000 people in 10 years, within 5 years, we already had about 30 million users of cell phones because the market determined that. So it crossed the cell phone industry crossed the chasm very quick because of market demands. Legislation was in place. Yes, there's a fight between innovators and regulators, but there are many factors that therefore will allow that to cross the chasm. So the question asked by the chair is, when we look at all those technologies put on the table, and we put it the year 2025, we say, how many of these do we think are going to cross the chasm? That is, you have moved from the visionaries, the early adopters, to the early majority. The numbers have been found to be like this. You have got 16% this side, so call it 16, 34, 34, 16. So the 2.5 and the 13.5, they together, the early market is 16%. Where the market grows is on early majority at 34%. And those that were conservative, they tend to come late. People in Ladysmith and say, we didn't believe in drones. By the time you come, the industry is already dying. There's new technologies in the market. The skeptics come when it's no longer lucrative. So many technologies have gone through this. So the question that we are asking now is, when you look at all of this, by the way, the World Economic Forum published 20 technologies of 2020, but there's another version of 50 technologies of 2025. So we just picked 15, and we're asking you, the chair is asking us a simple question: how many of these do we think will reach early adoption? So let's then take our minds from what we know, from simple things like Instagram, cell phones, solar, and the wearables, and say, when you look at this is what we think by 2025 will be so massified. Let's use the word massification. And it is our view. We have, at the Drone Council, we launched in 2020 what we call Operation Catch Up 2023. In 2023, we will be really have worked the ground and spelling out what we think will be expected by 2025 to cross the chasm, and we are busy at that, working on that. And next week, 2 p.m. Wednesday webinar is focusing just on legislation, and the other week we'll tell you next week what the other week is focusing on. But our focus mainly is on crossing the chasm. So, Chair, back to you. The question you're asking is that, looking at this first, we are making an assumption. Maybe people don't agree with us. We believe that the drone technology long moved from innovators because it's been here for a long time. It has, others are saying it's still at early adopter stage. It has reached early adoption. Others saying, no, we are crossing the chasm very soon. We are at early majority. So that's a debate that we should be having. I'm going to take the slide down now and allow you then to debate those. And our assumption is that people probably know the technologies. And if people don't understand, they must ask the chair and say, what is that? What is that wearables? Because here we've got AMA 2000, we've got the millennials, we've got pensioners like us who must go to SASSA and get our pension. So all what we know is the facts. We don't know cell phones and how you do all these things of yours. Thank you. I'll stop there and take it back to the chair. You can bring then your slides back. Or Ms. Lady wanted to speak, Chair.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Chair. Through the Chair, I would just like to address that one question very briefly with regards to regulations. There's been some very exciting developments in that area, and I invite you to our next week's webinar, where we will be dealing with how the new regulations can and will open up the possibilities for SMMEs, etc. So we will be publishing that, but next week is going to be a very exciting discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leahy, for that. I see we do have a hand up from Tandiwe. The floor is yours. Tandiwe, you have your hand up. Okay, I'm not sure if you can hear us, Ms. Tandiwe.
She might have raised her hand by mistake.
By mistake. Okay, all right. Do we have any other hands, any comments, any questions from members of the public who, after our chair has spoken?
Kindly bring back your slides that I took down so that we can have a discussion.
Okay, I'll do that as well. Okay, so no other questions and comments? Oh, yes, we do. We have a hand from Ms. Tulin Ndebele. Please go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. It's not a question, but it's just a comment that I'm very pleased. The opportunity that is given to young people, please utilize it. We never had such opportunities when we were young. It's just so easy to, so nice to step back and listen to young people telling us about technology, you know, things that we never thought we would know. Remember, our role as parents, we just pay the school fees and we rely upon you to lead us, take our country where it should be. And I definitely promise that I will log on every Wednesday just to see what you are doing. This is my first time I'm in attendance, and I will definitely never step back. I thank you.
Thank you very much for that comment, Ms. Ndabele. We appreciate that. And again, this is what we're trying to do, to engage with young people, to bring them to the forefront and have these kinds of conversations to drive the change and create these industries that are needed. I see we have hands. So I'm
5 hands.
5 hands, of many hands. So let's start with the first hand that I can see is Lifu. The floor is yours. Lifu, you may go ahead.
Yes, sorry about that. I was still trying to unmute myself. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for giving me this opportunity to be part of this process or this session. In fact, I was kind of invited by a friend, and when I look also on your presentation, I'm seeing a minister of it, something again accidentally. A friend of mine sent me a link where I applied for the process. I applied for the courses that are there, and I've seen it today in the morning. I kind of was accepted, but then I still needed to read. But my question is kind of brief, and you will pardon me, it's my first time joining in, and I've joined late. Then maybe these are some of the topics that have been talked about, and where do we start? Do you have any other programs that you guys are running in a form of a trainings or in a form of links that you can suggest, since we are all aware that the technology is moving fast and skill set and skills development is one of the critical parts in developing this. Yeah, I hope my question was clear, and I'm willing to elaborate if need to.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was clear on our side. In terms of training and those kinds of opportunities, I think we would ask our chair what kind of opportunities would be available to people if they wanted. Well, we can join the Drone Council and become a member of the Drone Council, but in terms of training and opportunities, that's something that the Drone Council is currently working on with this internship group, and hopefully with the next as well, that these opportunities will be made available to people, that we can be hosting training sessions, we can be having people come in, develop skills, learn skills, and go out. And again, this is not exclusive to the Drone Council, of course. I mean, there's other organizations that are doing and running such programs. So I think it would just be research in terms of what kind of programs you would be more aligned towards your desires. And again, looking at companies and programs that are more forward thinking in terms of pushing for global emerging technologies and their uses. So thank you very much for that comment. And let's move on to our next question. Remember, we just want to again have the broader discussion about crossing the chasm. So I'll take the hand by Ms. Kaelihle. Sorry, not Ms. Kaelihle Dagani. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor. And to the colleagues, I'm sorry that this is a better way of saying it. Thank you for the very engaging topic. I'm very impressed. To tell you the truth, except for that lone Facebook post, I would not have known about the Drone Council. I don't know, maybe it's like a hidden public, it's a public hidden secret. But I think the South Africa is ripe for these opportunities, for these developments to be explored further. So we thank you. This is to say We thank you for arranging such sessions, and like the previous speaker or Ms. Ndebele, I am now a permanent a subscriber, and I'll try to catch up as much as possible. So Siyabonga, thank you very much for this opportunity.
Nathi siyabonga, Baba. Thank you so much for attending once again. Let's move on to our next speaker, which is our next hand, beg your pardon, is Mobiles Tole. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Tando, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm just going to quickly go back to the question that you had posed before the chair spoke. And another thing, I want to also agree with what Babu Lisha said. South Africa is ripe and ready for these emerging technologies. And in this case, I'm talking about, I noticed how Facebook had in 2018, I think 2018, yes, they had the Facebook Aquila drone, which was an experiment, which was powered by solar panels. And this was all because they wanted to deliver internet connections via laser to communities or areas where they could not have internet access. So I think with the way that they had done it, and due to the software malfunctions, then the National Transportation Safety Board then discontinued that whole system. But I believe that with South Africa being ripe and ready, and with the South African curriculum in high school and primary introducing robotics and coding, I feel like South Africa in a few years will have drones flying using solar panels, moving into rural areas and giving them internet connections so that they also have a chance to experience what we are currently experiencing now with such webinars. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that comment. I think that's very insightful. And I do like your comment about the introduction of such technologies to young children. And maybe that's something that we can look into as a country, that yes, these technologies are emerging right now, but in all honesty, the way things are changing and the speed in which these things are changing, half of us will not make it into working in those industries. So one thing that I often think about is how the introduction of such industries, especially when it comes to primary school and high school, allows children and younger kids to be a part of these industries. And half of the industries, what these children are studying right now, could further push the industry into evolving to something completely different, something we are not aware of. So I think that's a very good point in saying that education and introduction of these things at lower levels is quite important. So thank you for that comment, Ms. Mobiles Tole. I see we have another hand here, Mr. Ellis Lavemba. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. My question is directly at Mr. Owen, I think the chair of the Drone Council. Partly the previous people who had their hands up were talking about this type of education being introduced into schools. I am not from the drone technology side. I'm a farmer and I'm an entrepreneur. And one thing that we struggled over the years is, to introduce entrepreneurial studies in such a way that primary and high school children have an option to become fully fledged entrepreneurs. So, sir, I want to ask you, I know that some of the schools, private schools, have robotics and stuff like that as an extramural activity. My question that I want to ask is that, is the Drone Council actively involved in making sure that rural and township schools have a curriculum that introduce our children actively, although we have a lot of catch up to do, but it's fine as long as the children can get education with the Internet of Things, with the Fourth Industrial Revolution, everything that's connected to that. Is it already implemented? Are you struggling to get it into schools? What's the view and what is the current status quo, please? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ellis. I will ask Mr. Penyani, can you address that question, please, for us?
Okay, thank you very much. There was that question and there was another question before this one. Somebody said, is the Drone Council a state secret? Why, how come it doesn't know about it? The Drone Council was launched publicly in the middle of COVID in 2020 on the 15th of July. And we have been having webinars throughout the COVID lockdown. We had, within a 2 months period, managed to have about 550 members. We're currently running programs with various universities and other research institutions. We have got 10 chambers. Go to our website. Our website address is www.dronecouncil.africa. So that you don't forget, it's dronecouncil.africa. So the Drone Council is there. You can just go in there and join. It's not a restricted organization. You join and you can choose the chamber you want to belong to. I'll give an example of 3 chambers. There's a chamber for academic and research institutions. There is a chamber for new applicants. There is a chamber for manufacturing. There is a chamber for municipalities and SOEs and so on. There are 10. And there are 10 chairpersons and 10 committees. So that which leads me to the next question by Mr. Levemba. Thank you. I've been told that the join now function doesn't work. The team will look at that. It's always been working since 2020. The 550 people joined using the join now function. May I ask the team to also then put the email address of the secretariat in case any person who's in the room struggles to get in, they can send an email to the secretariat to ask any question, and the team will come back to you. In terms of penetration to schools, I will be direct. The Drone Council is what I've told you what it is. What it is not a state-owned entity. It is a self-funded organization, but we're working through partnerships. And where we are now is that there are universities and TVET colleges that we'll be working with in the new year. And what we do then, we will first, the one layer is the executives that must make the decisions. They'll be trained at that level. Then the next layer, it's the academic institutions. And then you'll have the TVET colleges. There's partnership at TVET colleges linked to universities. Then they will then be linked to schools nearby. So we are using a quality systems approach and got this diffusion of the drone technologies to be easier and accessible. So if the Gauteng Department of Education or KZN Department of Education or whatever Department of Education approached us and say, can we do this partnership? We will gladly it not later than yesterday. Our approach is that we see an opportunity. If there's a match between us and the partners, we set up a team, we run with it. And some people, as I showed that graph, some people are doubters, are doubting Thomas's, or there'll be the laggards, or there'll be the late majority. But those that are early adopters have already approached us. We've signed a few MOUs, even with some business organizations. So you can really communicate with us. I see emails are being put here. You can just copy them. You can write to the directors or to that and ask us whatever questions that you have. But it is our intention that the drone technology must be diffused to beyond just the industry, to all the schools. That is why we've got the academic and research, the Chamber for Academic and Research Institutions with that sole purpose. But for now, we just started at universities and TVETs. Then, I mean, there's 27,000 public schools in South Africa. We are not the Department of Education, but if the Gauteng Department of Education or Western Cape Department of Education wanted to deal with us, we will ask, we have a model on how to incubate a program and how it will be run. It is doable. We've developed it and they do like it. Thank you very much. I'll stop there. I just wanted to also show my ugly face. I won't show it again.
Thank you so much, Chair. No, we do appreciate any kind of input that you might have, and especially when it comes to just relaying the kind of work that the Drone Council is doing and some of the progress that we are making. Just to follow up on comments around our visibility, we do encourage you to visit our social media pages, and we will share emails for the Drone Council in the chat section as well, so that if you do wish to get in contact with us, it's easier for you. We are trying to be as visible as possible because we do have so many new initiatives coming up that we would like to share with everyone. So please be on the lookout for that. I see we have one more hand from Nkululeko Makubane. You can go ahead and pose your question or comment.
Thank you very much, Chair of the session. I have a comment and also a question. As we've seen that emerging technologies have made our lives easy. So it's really grateful that we are a generation that is advancing with technology, but there's only a problem about these technologies that I actually come across issues such as cyberbullying on social media, which results to people committing suicide. We also have issues of high crime rates with specific reference to things such as scam, fraud, just to mention a few. So what is it that we can do as a Drone Council South Africa to combat those illegal factors that are happening around South Africa in terms of emerging technologies? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that question, Gulego. So in our focus for today's discussion, and I don't want to, not that I'm avoiding the question, but in our focus for today's discussion, it's about pushing or even questioning which of these technologies would be of use to us, and that we can advance. So, and again, just to focus on the positivity around it, rather, we know these things exist. We know that scams and fraud are such a thing. And I think my colleague Utamsanga really brought that into focus when looking at cybersecurity. But again, just to focus on the question that I asked earlier in terms of saying, looking at the list that's on our screen right now, which of these do we see would take an early adoption? I did mention new energy solutions earlier, but I really would like us to focus on that and see which of these industries and which of these technologies would really push us and help us cross the chasm that Mr. Penyani was referring to. I would like us to have an open discussion about it. So please do engage. Let's talk about it. Which of these technologies would we see get early adoption? Drones, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to help that we move forward. Sometimes these things are scary and people don't want to commit. They think they will make mistakes. That is the actual purpose of this. Let me be slow. I will answer your question. May you kindly bring back the slide that you missed? You had a slide that just when you wanted it, power went off. Yes. Maybe after I've said what I said, I'll request you to speak to your slide because it will have given us context. So what happens with technologies, as I've given the issue about closing the chasm, it's a question of a country and its economic system being ready or not being ready, and what the industry does. Sometimes taking chances does help. If you look at the cases of Rwanda in 1994, when we got our freedom, they were hopeless. They had killed one another. Millions of people died through the genocide. But they had focused by having leadership of both government and the industry. They even have got a Ministry of Innovation. We spoke to them. They're one of our partners that we're partnering with as a drone cancer. And they're focusing on innovation. So countries that are not scared, that have an open mind, youth that works with private sector that works with government, etc., etc. So having said that, you look at it and said, now key to this, there's an issue of data. Maslow spoke about the hierarchy of needs. At the bottom, it was food, then shelter, etc., etc. But if Maslow had to write again, he would put data within the top 5 hierarchy of needs. Everybody wants data. My 94-year-old mom needs to have data. And therefore, the issue that we're talking about is that what does it mean? What does 4IR mean to those technologies? When we talk about crossing the chasm, is that context has shifted. 15 years ago, our conversations would have been different. So we're challenging people to challenge us to say, do you think this drone industry will have grown by 2025? Do you think the wearables will have grown by 2025? So our engagement with government as a drone cancer is to be involved in the, what do we call it? You've got the National Development Plan. Then below it, the president has said each sector must develop a master plan. And what we've done is the drone council is to go to each master plan. We're engaged in the digital economy master plan and broke down how drones will be fused into the system. That digital economy master plan mentions all of these technologies and which ones have a future in 2025. We are involved in the aerospace and defense master plan. And we are also involved in the aviation master plan because we said unless we work, unless we fold our arms, these things could just stay at that stage of pre-early adopters. So the conversations, chair of the day will be, please take us for a minute on the past, and then we get the context on what happened between 1840 and 2010, and then we'll quickly go to your next slide and let's debate. And if you ask me my view, I will say that most of those technologies are possible, are doable, all of them by 2025. It all depends on us. You can't rely on government to develop technology. We are the people that are not in government. And if we think we're waiting for government, it will not happen. The only key thing that is a divide across the chasm is innovation on one hand versus regulation on the other. And if we can unite one another and deal with any stumbling block, whether it's regulation or it's data or it's load shedding, we say let's deal with it with what it does not enable. There are barriers and enablers. Let's put these are barriers. If we can deal with the barriers, all those technologies will be enabled. But that's my view, and I'm maverick, and I would like to hear other people what they think, whether they think it's pie in the sky, whether it is doable or not. But talk to us about this, and then we'll go to the next one. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chair. Okay, just to bring everyone back to the slide, I think this is a part that we missed due to technical difficulties. But the reason for the slide was to show the 50 million users or the emerging technologies and how long it took them to reach 50 million users. And at the top of the graph, we see the telephone. And again, it took a while for the telephone to reach 50 million users in comparison to if we look at the items on the right-hand side of the page, post the introduction of the internet, from the internet, adoption of and the use and the increased use of these technologies has lessened. So we see that these technologies take between 4 years, 2 years, 17 months, even days to reach the users that they need. And I think maybe that just speaks to how quickly these things can evolve. And just to come back then to what the chair was asking about in terms of adopting or the creation of such industries, how do we see the increased use and the increased change in which these emerging technologies come about when we look at the list, this one. So I see that we had 2 hands. I think it was Ms. Mobiles Tole and another person. Let's continue the session, and Uvusi. So let me actually start with Uvusi. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much. I'm appreciative, Nami, to join the session. It's very interesting. Just wanna say, in terms of 2025, and when we look at the technologies that we have in the country, some of the things are already there. And then looking at the diagram that you've shown before, those things are already in place. And it's not like South Africa is not ready to get there. We are almost there. For example, 3D printing, it's already up and running. Cloud computing is almost there. It's just that some of the companies, they are not adopting to, or more especially government entities. But then some of the private companies that are doing their clouding there. For example, on the other side, SARS is doing their, I think, 2023 vision of clouding technology. So when it comes to our country being ready in terms of the technology, we are getting there and we're going to the right direction. However, in the new energy solutions, which that's another topic on its own, because then it means that we need to kind of introduce it now. And I know that we're talking about a solar system that are there, or they've been there for quite some time, but then we need to find a better way of utilizing them and making sure that if then we're having these solutions as part of the country's solutions, and then at school, you know, as being said before, our kids are being taught to know as part of the technology solution or technology topics that are being done in other countries. For example, in China, you can be 5 years old, but you still know how to fix your phones. So in terms of what we need to do, we just need to streamline it in a better way. I'm just not sure what are the roadmaps that we can take, but then looking at the future, I think we are heading to the right direction.
Please enter the password again. Thank you very much for that comment. You are indeed correct. Some of these technologies exist already. These are not new. Some of them exist. They are here. We are using them. But it's just about how these will evolve in the next 3 years, in the next 4 years, in the next 5 years. So that's what we want to drive the conversation around. How quickly will they evolve? Will they still be present? Will they be non-existent? So those are the kinds of questions that we are wanting to ask in terms of introducing these kinds of technologies to our discussions. I saw we had another hand by Ms. Sitole. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Tando. There's a previous slide that you had shown, and it had the automobiles. So just to quickly touch on that, I think that currently with what's happening between the University of Stellenbosch and Go Metro, we are looking at South Africa moving from fuel to electronic minibuses. So from the research that I did, from next year, January 2023, the first electronic minibus will be making its way to South Africa. And the reason why the University of Stellenbosch decided to partner with Go Metro is because they noticed the hike of your petrol prices and how the commuters were currently complaining and using 40% of their salaries on just getting to work and getting home. So I believe that currently within the automobiles or the taxi industry, we are moving within the right direction. And for someone that's asking the question of how will these things be charged, the university is going to set up ports which will then be solar panel driven because of our load shedding problem. But other than that, all data and research will then be collected and released into the public most probably end of next year. So I think within the automobile section, we are moving in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Ms. Itole. And again, I think this just speaks to the kind of work that's being done in our country. Something that I've picked up is that we're very quick to look at international standards and sometimes compare ourselves to other countries like Rwanda, of which it's a natural thing, but to hear and to see that these kinds of technologies are being used by our own country, it does tell you that we are moving in the right direction. And it's just a matter of us really pushing and trying to drive these kinds of new industries forward. And so we really implore everyone to just continue to have these kinds of conversations and discussions when it comes to our webinars, and engage with us on our social media pages. I'm not sure if we do have any other further comments, questions before we do wrap up the session. Any comments from the chair? Any comments from anyone? Okay, we have a hand from Samgelo Penyane. You may go ahead.
Thank you, Chair of the meeting. I hope I don't fall off this time. So I want to talk about the top 5 technologies of the future that we think will reach a majority. And in choosing these 5, it is due to the discussions that we had today and the presentation from Ms. Tenjiwe Kupega, where she spoke about security, policing, and weaponized drones. So the technologies that I chose here, of course, I am in the Drone Council. I will never leave drones out. The first one that I will choose is drones, but in that I will also attach 2 other technologies. So I will be hitting on 3 technologies at once. So drones within the security or policing space, we can also add search and rescue missions to that. I believe that drones could reach a majority, as they do move faster and can access places that we as humans cannot reach, or we cannot pursue. A human cannot pursue another person faster than a drone as it's flying in the air. So those 3 technologies will be drones, facial recognition, and big data. Now, these 3 technologies, I say that facial recognition technologies can be attached to drones, which can be used to identify who the criminal was in case of
Samgelo? Samgelo, are you there?
Looks like he's lost.
Yeah, it looks like we've lost him. But Chair, I do see your hand is up. You may go ahead.
Yes. We like provocative discussion as the Drone Council, because we believe that leaders are out there, and we believe that in South Africa we've got this dependency theory, the dependency syndrome, not theory, dependency syndrome, that something will come from somewhere. We are just discussing 15 technologies here of 2025, yet there's 50 technologies. The speakers that spoke, they said these technologies are already here. Agreed. They're here, fintech, here, cloud computing, good. But that's not the question, whether they're here or not. Just like solar has been here for more than 50 years, but early majority took long. So it's not about the presence. And the question that's being asked is that which one of these will be in early majority by 2025? Do we see the usage of fintech platforms, for an example, Bitcoin and all cryptocurrencies, things that people are talking about in that space? Do we see those being massified? The word is massification. When we've got load shedding problems in the country, because to get data, you need load shedding. Look now, Samkelo is very excited about these technologies. He is talking, he then gets cut. What happens? What does our current economic environment mean for the diffusion of these technologies? When in rural areas there is no data at all, how do you massify these technologies? Should these technologies be only for those that are in the cities or those that are off-grid? And how do we make them? When we say massify, we should be looking at countries. We're not talking technology futures. You say countries that have succeeded, they started by fixing the basics right, getting network coverage right, ensuring that communities have data, data available, etc. But with this divide in South Africa, it is difficult. In a rural area, how do you even explain this? If I had to go and explain this at Wamhlabuyalingana or at Venda, will we be having the same conversations? Is this not an elitist discussion? I would like people that are here and say, I can comfortably take this and call 50 teachers in the area of Venda or in Guyana or in Mitchell's Plain and talk to them about this. They will understand me. They are educated most. They are teachers. The gentleman that asked me, Mr. Levemba, about these things in education, it's difficult. If you went to a meeting of teachers and said to them, you want to sponsor them on this, on any of these technologies, they could have a problem to even understand what they are. So the aim of this conversations is to demystify these things. Now let's talk about new energy solutions. So Chair, I would like us, as we close, it's already long after 3:30, as a form of an example, because people are saying, yeah, these technologies are here. I want us to be practical and say, let's just take new energy solutions and fintech. Let's take number 8 and number 14. And you explain it to me. How do you massify it in a rural area and in a township? Let's just take number 8 and number 14 and say, how do you massify it by 2025 in a rural area, deep KZN or deep Limpopo, or in a township? Then we can close and then say, okay, we have left ourselves with a problem about how we look at the world. I'm throwing the question now to the House, not to you, Chair.
Thank you for that clarity, Chair, because I think that's a very, very big question for us to just break down. Does anyone have any comments on how, and on the question that the Chair has just posed? So how do we introduce technologies such as new energy solutions and fintech to some of the rural areas we have in this country. I see Mr. Samgelo Pinyane has come back. Would you like to just continue or give us a quick comment on how we could possibly introduce these two into our regular lives? Samgelo, are you still there? Okay, I don't think so. So again, this is just a conversation that we want to have with the public. And again, these are the discussions that we want to have so that when coming into our next webinar, we can take off from there. So I see a comment from Matsuli Ndebele that says, rural areas are challenging until such a time that the chiefs and Indonas understand that 4IR should be implemented for development. Right. So in a way, these technologies should be taken from the city centers into rural areas. Is that the kind of discussion that we should be having then? How do we filter down the use of such technologies? How do we incorporate the open use of them into all parts of our societies? I think, which is it's very interesting because again, it's such a layered experience that we can look into. When we look at new energy solutions, so for instance, we do know of some people who are creating alternative energy in rural areas. For instance, the use of solar. Again, we go back to this, and the chair did emphasize that it's not something new. Solar, it's been around for many years, but the ways in which it's being used and adopted is different in rural areas, in city areas. So even looking at the way that new energy solutions come about can be very interesting, and see how the adoption in a rural area is different than how it may be in an urban area. So again, would anyone have any questions or comments around this discussion?
For me,
yes.
Therefore, for me, Chair, it confirms the hypothesis that we are complicating these conversations as a country. Oh yeah, now I remember what I was going to say, and I want you to think about it as we close. A research that came out recently, and when I raised it in India, colleagues from South Africa were saying, but why are you raising it? As research that came recently from various academic institutions and research institutions reveals the following, and I want us to engage with that. It says it was looking at various countries, developing and developed countries, in terms of their usage of the internet and social media. It turns out that South Africa, despite its problems, it's when it comes to usage of the internet and social media per person per day, it turns out that South Africa is #1. Then you get happy and say, wow, we thought we were doing so bad. It means we are doing very well. And it's supposed to be exciting you. Then when you go to the next slide, it says, can we then ask the question, what are these people doing? When they are #1 in the world in terms of usage of the internet and data and social media, what are they doing when they log in? You don't want to talk about it. I cannot repeat that. I can only repeat it privately. I cannot even discuss it when I'm with children. What South Africans do when they log in on the internet and on social media. I can only mention the lighter one, but the heavy ones, I'm even embarrassed to talk about them. It's gossip. Gossip is number 7, 8. Jokes and prayers, but there's nothing that we're doing about discussing technology development. There's nothing that we don't go to websites that talk about innovation. We don't go to websites that talk about research, about education, about making money, about fintech. They are down there. But the top 5 that South Africans do is the stuff that if your church knows about, they will suspend you from church. So that's the kind of country we have. So now you are having a discussion about technologies that are here. We are taking them light. They're here at our disposal. And but it's also about our approach to 4IR. Our approach to 4IR is so laissez-faire. It's like, nah, man. One day after, when COVID is finished, when we have all vaccinated, when Russia and Ukraine are done and the world is quiet, there's going to come a big truck or a big aeroplane bringing 4IR to us, and it will deliver to us house by house. Don't worry about 4IR now. That's our kind of attitude. It's as if this technology is out there for other people. Whereas the attitude of Asian countries when it comes to technology and leading, it's about what do we do now, integrating these things at school, integrating them in community discussions. As an example, you have a ruling party that has got 1 million members. It gets voted by around 12 million people every election, but it has never found it. It is in government. It has never found it to use technology to get the 12 million people to talk to it, because they've been voting for it for a long time. It has never found it that it can digitalize the support that it has. It can't pay salaries. If those people that vote for it were giving it 1 rand, just 1 rand a month, each one of them, it would have been 12 million a month. It will not be having these problems. If it was 10 rand a month, it will not be having the problems that it has. Just showing up how we do not maximize. Even if you took half of that, I can give other examples about our attitude to technology that we talk about it as far out there. Even those that are in government talk about it as being very far out there. So these conversations are really meant to say, it is not an accident that South Africa was the first country to develop drone regulations in 2015. Then we slept on the job because we overwhelm ourselves. We do these things, we bake it, we make this nice big cake. Then we wonder and say, now this cake is too big, what are we going to do with it? So with all of that said, before load shedding hits some of us, I thank the people that attended here today. And I'm leaving you with a question. Next week, we'll be talking about regulations and specifically on the drone industry, but the relationship between regulation and innovation in technologies and others too. We'll pick about 3, 4 and say, how has regulation blocked innovation? How has hostile regulation blocked faster innovation, and how has it blocked economic growth? And we should be having these conversations. But it is so worrying that we come here. The intention is not to have a movie where we just play, and people are watching. The intention was for us to be controversial, and we challenge us, and we put our tail between our legs, and we go home. I don't like it when I go to a webinar and I don't go back home with my tail between the legs. Chair, if there's 1 or 2 people that want to just ask us difficult questions, we will appreciate that, then we can close.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm not sure who that was. I think that was Ms. Tole. You had your hand up.
Yes, I had my hand up for the question that the chair had posed earlier regarding new energy in rural areas. So I was just gonna say it would have made more sense if communities or maybe a system could come into place where wind turbines are built so that the people in the rural areas then use wind to make electricity for themselves without having to fully rely on solar panels. Was just like an input for that. There is nothing else.
Thank you for that. So the introduction of other forms of electricity, and I think that's something that we can always look back into, how people are innovative in trying to develop the rural areas. Do we have any other difficult questions or comments that anyone would like to pose to the Drone Council, to us, things that get us nervous, things that we can continue to speak about in our next webinar sessions, just before we close? Any questions or comments? Okay. I think we should wrap up today's session. As the chair did say, we are over time and we just don't want to run into the problem of boring or taking anyone's time or load shedding hitting each and every one of us. So with that, we would like to conclude today's session of the webinar. We would like to extend the invitation to our next one, as the chair and Mr. Lakely had already said. Next week, Wednesday, we will be discussing regulations within the drone industry and some of the good things that are happening, some of the bad things that are unfortunately happening, and how regulations are increasing the use of drones and the drone industry as a whole. Personally, I would like to thank each and every one of you for attending. I'd like to thank the chairperson and all our directors who are present with us. I'd like to thank our speaker, Ms. Tenjua Kupega, who gave us a very insightful presentation about not only her career, but the possibilities that come with it. I'd also like to thank each and every one of you for attending these sessions. And I'd like to thank my colleagues as well, those who presented with us today and those who engaged with the discussion as well. May we continue to have these kinds of conversations on a weekly basis, not only on these kinds of platforms, but on our socials as well, so that we bring awareness and we continue to just have chats about the kind of work that needs to be done in this industry and other industries as well. Thank you very much, everyone. We hope to see each and every one of you next week when we discuss drone regulations. Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Chair. May the IPM members remain and the members of the social media team so that we can clean the tables. Thank you very much. IPM and social media team.